So how's everybody doing today? Can you hear me? Is this good? Can you hear me now? Okay. So imagine living every day planning that you're going to die that next moment. It's kind of a hard concept to grasp. It's either that or the fact that you're going to want to die the next moment. It's kind of confusing. My story begins with two incredible people, Harold and Christine Monteith. They're my parents. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them. So I give them all the praise for everything I've done in my life. I'm from a town called Pueblo, Colorado. It's about 100 miles south of here. There's about 100,000 people in this town. If it was used as a sample size for the United States, about 30,000 of that 100,000 people would be illiterate. They wouldn't be able to read or write. Now, the high school I graduated from had about 300 students or so in a graduating class. Out of those 300, 60 wouldn't be able to read or write at the 5th or 6th grade level. Okay, I fall into those statistics. I didn't know how to read and write until I was 24 years old. And I learned how to read and write when I was in prison. So that's what the interesting thing is. What led up to being in prison and what I was telling you about living every day, not know if you're going to see tomorrow, is I've been shot at, I've been stabbed with a beer bottle, I've been jumped about 12 times, I've had my teeth knocked out about 6 different times. And it was all a construct of the choices I made and what I did to people. It's like it's a flow of energy. You treat people poorly, you're going to get treated poorly. If you treat people properly, you'll get treated properly. And that was the concept. It took me a long time to figure this out, and it was a very hard road to kind of get there as a result of that. So what had happened was I got investigated by the DEA. It was an 8-month investigation. I was a cocaine dealer for about 5 years or so. As a result of an 8-month investigation by the Drug Enforcement Agency, I ended up getting 5 years in a federal prison with 5 years of probation. Okay. When I was in prison, I ended up meeting a gentleman called Thad Roberts. We called him Moonrock in there. He had an interesting past. So anyway, he encouraged me. He didn't know I was functionally illiterate. He didn't know I couldn't read or write. But he wanted to learn 2 new words a day. So he's like, hey, we should learn 2 new words a day. We should start reading the dictionary and kind of looking at it or whatever. So we started learning some words. Well, this was kind of interesting for me because I had a really poor vocabulary and a really high vocabulary. So it was like, I would speak about people, I'd be like, yeah, my homies lack verisimilitude. So there was no balance there at all. It was really, really confusing to me. So I picked up the dictionary, right? And I said, okay, I need to learn how to read and write. And so I started understanding how to use the pronunciation key. I started understanding what oscillants were, and I learned about 250 new words. By doing that, I still had to know how to use them. I didn't know what an adjective was. I didn't know what a pronoun was, and I didn't know any of this stuff, right? I couldn't read the signs fast enough when I was traveling down a highway, so I hated driving. It was the most tedious thing I could have ever done. I hated going places I didn't know where I was going. I was that driver that was all over the road. So anyway, we started learning these words, so I started learning how to read and write, and then it hit me that nobody owes me anything in this world. It's up to me to get what I want out of this world. And that was probably the most significant thing I was able to assimilate from my situation. Because where I came from and the situation I was in, I blamed my parents, I blamed the people I was around, I said, oh, the system failed me, I couldn't read and write, and I had a number of excuses. But what it came down to is that I didn't want to learn how to read and write. I didn't want to take the time to build myself up and become the person I am today. So it was my fault, it was in my control. But when I realized that was a pivotal point in my life. It was funny because the most euphoric feeling I've ever had in my life was in prison, sitting there looking at desert through a fence. And that was the happiest moment I've ever had. And so it's really interesting in understanding that it's not necessarily about the situation you're in, but what you do with that situation that makes it so great. So continuing with it, I ended up getting released from prison. In October of 2007, I went to a halfway house. From there, I ended up getting a position at Play It Again Sports. I became the marketing manager. I was there for about 2.5 years, and I started at community college, Pikes Peak Community College. I began giving ethics speeches there, speaking with professors, meeting people, and they helped me grow as well. And what I realized through that experience was that it's not about wanting people to help me or going out there and expecting them to do things for me, but it's about treating people properly, taking care of them, giving, and with that, you'll gain a good support system. Because any adverse situation you're in, you need a strong support system. Everybody needs a good support system. But people don't like supporting people who are selfish or who are out there only get things for themselves. They support people that they care for, genuinely care for. And so that's it. It's about giving. It's about caring. So I was at the college. One of my professors came out and he said, why don't you shoot for the stars? And he had told me to apply to Wharton. right? And I was like, what's Wharton? And he had told me University of Pennsylvania, right? I had no clue. I didn't even know what CU Boulder was when I got out of prison. So he had told me what Wharton was, explained it to me, so shoot for the stars. He goes, you have a lot of potential, you could do a lot. So it was great, the kind of encouragement he gave me. But what I realized, and this was another pivotal point, was that it takes time. You can't just jump right into something. You can't expect it to happen right away. It takes perseverance. You got to make sure that you take your time with it. And so I realized, well, maybe it's too quick. I mean, I've only been out of prison for like a year and a half, you know, and I was an illiterate felon. I was really old. I was like 28. So it was kind of rough. So I decided to apply to DU, and I actually decided that from Jenny Egan. I met her. She came down to the school and started talking to me about it. And it was kind of interesting because I told her, I was like, I was looking to apply to your school. She was like, yeah, you should come and apply. I was like, I'm a felon. She's like, ooh. So, but she still encouraged me and supported me, right? So I went through this huge I ended up going through about 3 different interviews to be able to get accepted here. I was the first felon to be accepted to the University of Denver in 12 years. I was the first one that the Vice Chancellor of Admissions, Todd Reinhardt, has ever accepted at the time that I was accepted. And the reason why he said he thought my story was special was because I accepted responsibility for what I did. And I realized that that was the greatest thing that I had to do to overcome the issues that I had facing me. Instead of trying to blame somebody else, I realized I had control of it and that I had to do something about it. And so I did. So I got accepted to the University of Denver. I ended up getting $35,000 in scholarships. I ended up getting 4, which resulted in a full ride scholarship here. And I ended up becoming the first lead business tutor for the Learning Effectiveness Program, the first lead business tutor that's an undergraduate for the Learning Effectiveness Program. And I built the curriculum for the Excel program that we have at Daniels. We just implemented it this actual quarter. So the concept of that is that regardless of what you have facing you, any adversity that you may or may not have, as long as you understand that it's in your control and that you're the only one that can do something about it, nobody owes you anything in life. Life is a gift given to you, and to be here and be alive and not have to be shot at every day, not have to sit with 300 grand on you, with 5 people don't speak English, wondering if they're gonna kill you. Not having that is a gift. It's great. And being able to explore that and give to people and share that with people and help people through life, I think will help you overcome any adversity that you're ever going to face. Thank you.